This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium. This Imperium Life 3. Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. I forget how professional these are supposed to be. I don't remember if This Imperium Life start with like a nice intro, or kind of like, is this a formal presentation?
Yeah.
I don't know what we're supposed to. It's been like 6 months since we've done a This Imperium Life.
Well, I think it starts the curtains.
Right, we draw the curtains.
We draw the
curtains. No. There's house music that's just playing,
right. And the orchestra in the pit.
They're tuning up.
Right, and and then it's like a good host voice of somebody being like,
Now presenting Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson with This Imperium Life. Welcome to the stage, His Excellency. Like that?
No. Oh, that was not the one. I did not care for that. I did not care for that at all.
Let me try another one then.
Okay, yeah, actually.
Another announcer?
Actually, how many announcers you got in there? Let's see. Segment 1. How many announcers does Matt have in him? Let's see.
Hey, welcome around 5 times here. This week on This Imperium Live, you got Hunter Donaldson. Matt, I'm going to tell you a few stories about Twilight Imperium. Why don't y'all listen in close?
Okay, I get it.
Get where that one's going?
Auctioneer.
Yeah.
Auctioneer.
Kind of going in that direction.
What else we got? Let's open your brain. Let's pick around.
Attention, everyone, please settle down. I'd like you all to take a seat. That's quite enough now. This evening, we have a most excellent and professional program for you. We are presenting Matthew Martins and Hunter Donaldson, and with them they bring the stories of Twilight Imperium. This Imperium Life.
Oh, sorry. Whoa. If you guys could see what he did with his lips there. All right, any more? Got another one?
I'm done. No, do you have one? I want to hear one.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
Here we go. Is that good?
I love it. Let's kick off the show.
Show's gotten stupid.
I held Mechatol Rex with a meager fleet, spending most of my resources on filling it with an impressive stack of 15 plus infantry rather than ships. Everyone around me had these massive fleets, but lacked the invasion capability to effectively remove me, so I was mostly left alone. I naturally had the most votes, with twice as many votes as half the table. Considerable, but not enough to dictate things if everyone turned against me, and that they would. It was nearing the end of the game, and the upcoming agenda phase was likely going to be the last one. I held on to Imperial thanks to the action card political stability, so everyone was in league to take me down. The first agenda drawn was representative government. This is where planets cannot be exhausted for votes, but instead each player receives 1 vote. Outwardly, I vainly opposed the law, and the rest of the table celebrated that they finally put an end to my political tyranny, as well as ensured a safe vote for the next agenda. They played right into my hands. The second agenda was compensated disarmament. Elected planet loses all infantry, and the owner gains 1 trade good for every infantry lost. The table deliberated and deals were made, but they all agreed not to vote for Mechatol Rex because of how many trade goods I would get. When it came to my turn to vote, I threw down the action card Distinguished Counselor, increase your vote total by 5 when you cast your votes. And they watched in horror when they couldn't do anything, as my massive infantry stack made me disgustingly rich. The next round, I had enough to spend 16 influence and 16 resources for 2 victory points each, scored an easy secret objective I was holding on to, and got the point for holding Mechatol Rex. I jumped 6 victory points that round and won.
Who dat from?
Who dat from? That's from Icarus. You're here listening to This Imperium Life. For those of you new to this type of show, new to this show, today is not going to be a normal strategy episode or anything like that. We are just giving you the business. We're giving you the stories that you all submitted to us. These are like some of the coolest moments in games of Twilight Imperium, and we just love sharing them because that's a big part of this game, is just hearing the stories of the wild things that happen, because at the end of the day, the strategy's all random, and none of it matters, right? There is no strategy in Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, the game's made up and the points don't matter, babe. I want to put a quick thank you out there to everyone that submitted stories, regardless of whether we use them or not. We had the largest bank of stories thus far.
I mean,
I think it's going to help
the 6-month break, but we are, the ones we got, I am a huge fan of, and this one is on that list because holy cow,
I love representative government, and this is like such a good example of why that is like so much fun. Agenda. Yeah. It's so much fun. I almost want sometimes to play just with that in effect from the onset. Right. Just being like, we're going to try that government
even
style.
Plays, except for when huge swings happen, and just like a 6 victory point swing is always like the coolest thing in the world to see. I mean, I like this story because this is sort of the quintessential This Imperium Life story. This is sort of, I treat this as the tried and true, you know? This is the setup of the game. This is the crazy thing that happened. Here's the like, holy cow, that's crazy 6-point swing. Boom. Done. Tasty little nugget.
Right. It's the extended tasty little nugget. Yeah. It's the extended like play of the week into this is how I won the whole game kind of thing. Yeah. Really, really good play. Distinguished Counselor, it's got that.
It's got that power.
It's got that power.
There's a story we're not going to do this week, but I want to bring it up.
We got two really similar.
We got two votey ones, but it's worth bringing this one up. There was another one where Distinguished Counselor was played, but then a Jolnar played bribery and had a gajillion trade goods because, Jolnar is a broken race, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we all know
And
this.
they won the game because there was representative government in play, and then 2 action cards came out to, like, totally bust up everyone's votes, and just, like, it's just so fascinating to see. That made me think, too, I said this off camera, off mic to Hunter, I can't wait for the day when everyone did such a good job that we're all at 9 points.
Oh, yeah.
We're all at 9 points going into the agenda phase, and then X victory point agenda comes up, and we literally all just have to now decide how this happens. Like, there's the honorable route of, okay, whoever has the most influence should win, because they put the most votes towards themselves.
But if it's representative government, that won't be the case.
But if it's representative government, it won't be the case, and so then you're forced into a situation of, we literally have to king make someone. There's no other way out of it.
Right.
So, how do we... I can't wait for that conversation to happen.
It is the perfect... Like you've built now the perfect king-making hypothetical, not to get back into king-making, but it's been a while. We haven't talked about it in a minute. But yeah, it is a perfect situation of like, you just have to decide who's going to win. Right. There is no like, because you can all vote for yourselves and then the speaker wins. Right. So what
There's nothing else. You got nothing else.
I mean, it's a ridiculous situation, but I mean, has it happened out there? Please let us know.
Oh man,
like if it has, it's a crazy.
If it's happened, surely we would have gotten a story about it by now. I think it's pretty rare for that many people. But even if it's like 4 players that are at 9, or even 3 players are at 9, and that comes out, and like I don't know, the 2 other people don't have enough. Like usually the VP ones come out, and it's just like, okay, let's give it to the person with the least.
Right.
But I want a situation where it's like, no. This vote is literally going to decide the game, and it could go in many different directions.
Yeah. Honestly, it would be cool to put just a general call out for if you have a story about a time that kingmaking was forced upon the entire table and they had no choice. Yeah. We get submissions like that sometimes. We curiously didn't get too many this time like that. Yeah. But I am curious of these moments where kingmaking is just a thing. Right. And there's no way around it.
Yeah.
And I want to hear about those.
Yeah, definitely.
This story is about the folly of the Nalu player to not be able to count on round 5, and their hopeful swing from 5 victory points to 10. Nalu had managed to take Imperial that turn, took Mechatol Rex from me, had everything set up, and was ready for their ability to pull the 5-point round. They had flipped Mechatol and scored 3 unit upgrades to get them to 8 points. They obviously also had 2 unit upgrades, which they were going to score in the status phase. They also had, at that point, 3 dreadnoughts. 3 dreadnoughts, 4 resources, 3 trade goods, and no Sarween tools. I think you see where this is going. Trade had already been played, and no one, not even their close friend, the Ghost of Creus, had the ability to trade with them. I looked at the Nalu player and asked if they had made a mistake, because I counted only 7 resources and no ability to score the 5 Dread secret objective, if that is the objective they in fact had. Oh, that's stupid. I had managed to get 9 points and secure the speaker token. Nalu goes to 9 as well. The rest of the board is far behind, but fighting for 3rd. We play out the rest of the status phase and get to returning our cards. Knowing I have the game in the bag, the Creus player goes, "No! None of you return your cards. I play political stability!" Clearly, he thought he'd be giving Nalu the win, until I tell him to read the card. Oh, that's stupid. We go through agenda, nothing of note happens, and I take Imperial in round 6. Nalu tells me that I guessed correctly, and that he was hoping to play a Warfare Rider to get his 5th Dreadnought. Oh, that's stupid.
This one was given to us by the Cartographer of Chaos in Mac We Trust.
And oh, it's stupid. That one is stupid.
So stupid. In Mac We Trust,
played with some stupid people, and then now he has this story of people just making mistakes. It's honestly, it's such an interesting win, because it's literally just someone being like, well, I played a good game, and then everyone made mistakes, and I won. Like,
right.
It's an interesting story, because I feel like in the end of the day, that win probably didn't taste too great.
Right.
I mean, at that point, it's like, man, what have I been doing with this?
I want to walk you through all of those moments.
Right.
Okay, they were one resource short of getting the 5th Dreadnought, so they couldn't win that way. So they had this action card. Oh, I'm going to do the Dreadnought. Well, okay, the Dreadnought thing, you won't get the Warfare Rider until after the status phase to score. Also, you can't guarantee you're going to get a Dreadnought out of the Warfare Rider, so best not to, like, hinge your whole plan to that buggy. And then, of course, there's the our Connor moment, his political stability moment of thinking, this is what they thought. I don't know if it was clear in the story, but the person playing political stability thought that every single person would keep their cards. And since Nalu had Imperial, they were effectively trying to give Nalu the win.
Right.
But no, political stability only lets you keep your card, so it didn't have any effect on anything. So yeah, like 3 misplays in a row led to, I guess in Mac We Trust just wins then. Pretty
right.
Kind of just automatically wins.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you've ever played a game with this like with this level of like, oh, and then so and so messed up, and what do you think is even as far as games you've played that you can remember, like the biggest, I guess it's the Connor thing. That still just casts such a long shadow on our lives.
I played a Sardak Nor game recently, though, that I myself, it wasn't that everyone else messed up and just
you were telling me this. You messed up a bunch.
I was just so mad at my play in this Sardak game where like 4 rounds in a row, just like, forgot to do that one thing, and that's going to cost me.
Do you remember any of it? Like,
I don't. I wish I did. I should. I mean, it's stupid to bring it up without having the specifics. But it was.
You're right. It is stupid. Hey, that's stupid.
But it was equivalent to like, well, this round I accidentally, when like someone pops tech and you're like, I could get a tech.
Yeah, and then you're like, wait, I needed those 4 resources to score the VP.
Yeah. It was those kinds of mistakes just kept happening to me, and I was Sardak Nor, so it's like, I don't have wiggle room to be, I'm supposed to be at the top of my game. This is supposed to be my, like, everything is on point, I'm Sardak, keep a tight, game running, and I just wasn't at all.
I'm not even on in Mac We Trust side anymore, I realized, because you know what? This game is hard, and it's so easy to forget little things like that, and so what? I've gotten to a point now where that doesn't happen to me so much, but I remember being like, every round I'd be like, no, because what happens is The status phase happens. You make your plan for how you're going to get that VP. You see it, and you can pretty much most of the time you can see the route or whatever.
Right.
And then you just start playing Twilight Imperium, and somebody flips tech, and you're just like, oh, it'd be cool to get a tech.
I love that.
You're just enjoying the game, and how dare you do that?
Well, in the days of TI3 too, there was the production car. So nowadays you have the secondary of warfare, and that's the only time like people build freely in their home system.
Right.
But in TI3 we had production, where just like you play production, oh man, he's building, you're building, she's building, everyone's building, and like people would make mistakes when production would get played because the timing of it would just be like, oh, wait, I got a lot of money, I can afford 4 dreadnoughts, I'm doing it, and then whoops, I really should have saved a lot of that money for so many other things. The worst offender though for me is command counters. I'll just like, oh, I can get 2 action cards off a secondary of political, and then I look back over and I go, wait, I don't have a secondary for tech now, and I had to have tech to be able to get the whatever, and just like command counters are like my nightmare.
They really are. I've noticed that lately. Yeah, I mean, I said that last episode, but like, yeah,
the games where I get my command counter game on point, where I'm like actually always having enough, I do just fine. But if I'm at all under any sort of, limit on command counters, I really just start pooping my pampers.
Quick mini episode. This is going to be a separate podcast within the podcast called How to Beat Matt.
How to Beat Matt.
Try and cut off his command counters.
Take my planets that have influence.
Right. Don't let him have influence. He loves it. You hear him talk about how much he loves it. Like, you hear him talking about it. Oh, I'm Matt and I love influence. I think you should just have a high influence. I don't need resources for nothing. I'll just make the plastic up out of nowhere. I'll just play trade, even though I only got 2 commodities.
Here's how you beat Hunter. Attack him early, and then he'll throw a hissy fit for the next 4 hours.
Ooh, going straight for salty. You're not good at that roasting thing.
I'm not good at roasting.
You just went straight for... I was just like, he struggles with command counters, and you're like, well, he's a baby in his heart, and as a person... I was just like, oh, he's not very good at managing some cardboard, and you were like, he's just bad. He's just like, it just doesn't even have to do with the game. It's just like
little weasel.
Who he is, even when he's at home. That's how you gotta learn how to roast. A friend of mine told me the way comedy roasting works is that you make fun of people for stuff they can't change. That's how. Which I guess technically for that rule, the command counters thing was below the belt. Let's move on to the next story.
At the Wellington tournament, I'm playing Necro. I have 9 victory points, but the last victory point is annoyingly elusive. I have done all of the public objectives bar 1. Control 11 planets outside of my home system. And it's just not possible. My only secret is 4 techs of 1 color. I'm the Necro. Vainly, I look around the table. No one has gone more than 2 techs down any color. There is the occasional racial tech, but none of them match. There just aren't 4 techs of 1 color on the table combined. I took Imperial last round, but this round I've been blocked from both Imperial and Politics. I took Technology for the novelty. My home system is well picketed, but the mine net on the far side of the galaxy is making a lot of noise about hitting me. But with some fleets in the way, he can't quite get to me. Suddenly, it hits me. I work out how to win. I activate tech. The mine net gets light wave deflector and comes barreling into my home system and overwhelms my 13 ground forces flagship and 2 destroyers, then takes the planet, but he loses 2/3 of his fleet in the process. I only need him to lose a single ship. I acquire light wave deflector, and after that, my last fleet crushes a lone ghost ground force to acquire slave wormhole generators and gets the 4th blue to win the game. Losing my home system... that's just all part of the plan.
That was from RoboFish. And I'm going to go ahead and award it with the single best strategy submission we've ever gotten. Like, not to say that that's the most impressive thing I've ever heard of someone pulling off.
Right.
But it was the way that it was written.
It was thought out. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got the action card, and oh, cool, I can play it, and that's going to lead to this amazing thing happening, and I can do this. This is RoboFish actively lost his home system.
Right.
In an effort to win the game. You can only do that with, like, a faction like Necro, right? The Necro is the only one where it's, like, aggression and crazy fights just all feed into my power. Mm-hmm. I mean...
this is a great example of why Necro is a really good faction. Also, one thing I want to talk about is the Wellington tournament. The Wellington Twilight Imperium tournament. Welcome to the Wellington tournament, good chap. Sit down with your cardboard and plastic, good chap. Welcome to Wellington.
Here in Wellington, we'll play a gentleman's game, thank you. We'll have no king-making, sir.
The idea of someone losing a game of Twilight Imperium and throwing their glove onto the...
The shocks from the crowd. A slight murmur. They're really feeling it here at Wellington Stadium, folks.
At Wellington Field.
Yeah, Wellington Field.
Wellington Field and Garden.
Crumpets will be served afterwards.
Is Robofish British?
Nope.
Did we just find that out?
I don't know. Sure. I don't know. It probably says it on Board Game Geek. I'm not going to look.
Robofish
is a robot. Excuse you.
Oh, sorry.
There is no nationality.
Robots can be from... I think we all know that Daft Punk are robots, but they're from France.
Yeah, it's true.
I wish they could... You know what I'll say? I don't even know if you want to include this, but I wish they could all be like this.
Just this snappy?
Just that. Just like... Yeah, I don't even feel like we complimented Robofish enough.
Yeah.
This was like the perfect... The way you...
This isn't to like... snub anyone else, but this is like Robofish just submitted like the perfectly shaped play of the week, sort of thing.
Yes,
the perfectly shaped This Imperium Life.
It was a big play. It was difficult to pull off, and we know just enough about the game to know why it was such a great play and what Robofish had to do to pull it off. And that's
I gotta say, we get a lot of submissions where it's like people detailing just the entire game for us. Mm-hmm. And those are fun to read because reading about Twilight Imperium is fun, but those are hard to present, and that's why they often don't make the show, because they're just hard submissions to like, we're trying to boil it down to one thing. Sometimes we're able to kind of Frankenstein them a bit and make something out of it. Actually, the last one, In Mac We Trust, we kind of cobbled his story together. His was a post that was kind of like the whole game, and we tried to pull out the nuggets, but if there's any advice we can give, if you really want to get your story shown, it's try to condense it down into that moment, give us just enough setup to understand the context, and hit us, think of it as a story structure, just hit us with the moment that it really all clicks together and works. Yeah. And this just does that so well.
I'm doing that thing where you put your fingers and you go, mwah.
The chef thing.
Mwah. Mwah. That's a...
Bon appetit.
That's a tasty...
what is it?
Nugget.
Yeah, we're just going to keep saying nugget. All right, got it. Thought you'd give us something different? No, it's a chicken nugget.
Good nugget.
Good nugget.
Oh, this one already? Okay.
Should we preface this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is the weird... So off of that advice, we have the weirdest submission we've ever received. This one is hard to... This one is so funny to us that we had to read it, but it is also very, very difficult to read, and I'm not 100% sure what all is happening throughout the course of the story. By the end of it, it all kind of makes enough sense, but we just really wanted you guys to ride on this roller coaster with us, because this one's a journey.
Yeah, you're getting this one unfiltered, like pretty much raw as we got it, and here we go. Maybe we'll figure it out together. If you're blue... you are indeed going to die. The 800-year war began, like all wars must begin. It was my birthday, and there had been pizza and ice cream cake ordered. To mock me, the player across the board chose to be the blue color. He knew that any given board game that I had an irrational hatred for blue. He believed himself to be safe because of the distance between us. Part of me debated if I should grow up and denounce my bloodlust for the weaker of the prime colors. But someone mocked me about it. Someone dared me. Someone had set my goal for the game. With keeping in theme, I chose the necrovirus. I would be a mindless killing machine that would conquer the galaxy. To my left was the Federation of Sol in one of the largest spaces of the 5-player map. To my right, in the smallest of the map, was the Universities of Jolnar. He messed me up. My meal ticket. Then there was the Hakan player, and finally, blue. The Mentak.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, the colors are messed up.
A blue Mentak. I'm already on This is a submission by Braden. I'm already on Braden's side. Not because I hate blue, but I do hate a blue Mentak.
Yeah.
That's... oof.
I first ate into the Federation of Soul. They let me take up some space as their entire mission was to hold Mechatol Rex. But time passed and I began a symbiotic relationship with spicy sweet chili Doritos. I took a large section of their pie slice, bite by bite. I ate carrier or cruiser for my technology needs. I never took his planets. He was left in a peaceful existence under the looming girth of my fleets. I protected him from Hakan, kept him safe from the wormhole in his system, and we shared in his knowledge. Most of my game was at war with the rich Hakan and the leader of the game, the Federation of Soul. I had the largest force, albeit a small number of planets, given I had left them for Pop-Tarts to hold on to. If I was going to destroy Blue, I was going to need some help, so I allied myself with Blue. He was wise to be suspicious of me. I had to trade him a ceasefire, my racial agreement, and a support for the throne. Only then was our friendship cemented. We spent the rest of the game pushing towards either side. To hide my true intentions the entire time, I had to choke down talking up trade between players to fill the Mentak's thirst for trade. Ugh. Soon he saw me as best friends. As the end of the game approached, I had to take Mechatol Rex from Federation of Soul. I wasn't doing so well now that McNuggets had grown a backbone and rose from underneath the safety of my shade. Things were never better between Blue and I, however. He politely shored up a fleet next to Mechatol Rex. He needed to get caught up in the VP element of the game and allowed me one more turn under its control before he needed me to leave. I looked Mentak dead in the eye and lied to him. Sure, I said. I knew my time had come to stab him in the back. I had the speaker token, and without blinking, I took Imperial. He was outraged, to say the least. He took warfare, and it was clear that my betrayal would not go unpunished. He convinced the entire board that I would win, and soon everyone was out to get me. He attacked Mechatol Rex, and I survived. What was my first move? Was it to push into Federation of Soul to score a secret objective? Was it to put down extra crispy fried chicken? Was it to bring the war to Hakan, who was mimicking my relationship with grilled cheese, by moving across his planets peacefully? No, it was to move off of Mechatol Rex, like I had agreed to do, letting Mentak take it back with warfare. I hadn't been unable to destroy Blue, but I was able to give him the setup for the win, only to take it from him, which was arguably much better. He had given up a point to take the planet by attacking me, and Imperial had been taken from him. I had stolen his win and also set him into second place, leaving me with 2 points to win. The next round was brutal. Out of spite, I had given up the chance to score on Imperial and really needed a way to get 2 more victory points to win. I was hunted down like a wild animal from all corners of the galaxy. By the time it was my last turn of the game, I was down to 2 systems left. If I didn't win, I would be crushed by the Hakan player. I had been able to draw a secret objective, which would get me the win. I sent a dreadnought, one of my last ships, off to the Federation of Soul to bombard. I rolled, I killed his ground force, and I won the game. But that didn't matter. What mattered is that Blue had died, on the inside, if nothing else. And we received that submission on paper, written in crayon. We found it strapped to a dog delivered that to us.
This big English bulldog with a monocle walked up to us.
And a piece of notebook paper strapped to its back, written in crayon. There's so much going on in that story that I do not really understand.
Extra crispy fried chicken.
It's weird because I assume that what Braden was doing was instead of giving us the names of the people that he was playing with, Braden gave us their names as food. And what's weird too is, I mean, obviously the whole premise of the story is very strange that Braden has this like
vendetta against the color blue.
And anyone that would play blue, especially because there are only 6 colors available in Twilight Imperium. So if you are playing with 6, it's not like they had to.
Choice, right?
Like somebody had to do it. Somebody had to play blue. I assume Brayden never plays blue, which means someone had to. Like the way that it's framed in the story is like the person was like, well, I could pick blue or another color, but Brayden will be so mad at me if I pick blue. They were playing Mentak too. They probably didn't even want blue.
Right.
They probably all the other color. What? I don't want to play blue Mentak. And it was like, well, that's what we're doing. Sol didn't pick blue, so I guess you've got it.
There's a line graph in Twilight Imperium, and there's playing purely strategically on one end, and there's playing very role play on the other end.
And this isn't
isn't on the graph. This doesn't exist on the graph.
This is a meta way of playing the game where you've created something outside of the bounds of the game. What's so crazy about it too is Brayden has this like out of nowhere just hatred of the color blue, which I don't even like. Let's not even go there. But Brayden is also good enough at Twilight Imperium.
He won anyway.
Anyway.
That's what I wanted to point out.
Yeah,
like your goal for this game was only to stop blue, and you spent one round foregoing any of your own exploits to stop blue, and it still wound up winning you the game.
Brayden hates based on color, and his friends are food.
This game is nonsense.
But it isn't even. It's not even enough nonsense. That's the thing that's crazy about reading it, is that quite a lot of it is basically a regular Twilight Imperium, this Imperium Life.
Right.
Like, Brayden, what's up?
Thank you for that journey, Brayden.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
But also, hit us up.
You should call your doctor too. I don't know.
I want to play. No, I don't want to turn. This is not that. I just want to know what's your angle. I'm curious. Are you playing are you looking for board games that feature the color blue in order to specifically play them to exercise your war on blue? Is there some sort of meta? Is there a chart that chronicles every victory that you've had in every board game against the color blue?
The blue chart. Upon hearing the proposed title of the chapter, telling of his experience in the Twilight Wars, the first words out of the mouth of Lieutenant Colonel Antonio Lee von Schampf, retired, were, "I'm not the hero, just a lucky patriot." Lieutenant Colonel von Schampf, or Ali, as he prefers to be called, was the leader of the sole surviving company of the 3rd Jordian Guards Regiment stationed on Mechatol Rex at the time the planet was besieged in a desperate attempt by the Letnev-Sardak-Nor alliance to seize power and engulf the galaxy in despotism. The famed regiment prided itself on accepting only exceptional recruits descended from documented Jordian stock, the proud homeworld of the galaxy's vast human diaspora. Ali's family had arrived only 2 generations ago when his grandfather arrived on Mechatol Rex as part of the Galactic Stabilization Force sent from Jord to promote stability and reopen dialogue between the races. The records showed that, only a week before, Fleet HQs had ordered the carrier, its fighters, and 3 companies of the regiment out of Mechatol Rex to take Dalbutha on the other side of the asteroid field, leaving 5 companies behind. Ali recalled the events of that day, his gaze growing ever more distant as the recounting continued. "Course I was nervous, we've all trained for it over and over. We were elite spec ops, we were the best. But whose sphincter doesn't malfunction a little when the real activation alarm goes off? It was the Barony, mean and red, and deep space radar had picked up a dreadnought. We did as we trained and took cover in the bunkers, but during the bombardment one of them collapsed on a whole company and they were gone, just like that." He snapped his fingers in the air and continued, "We knew the most logical place for them to land. We were ready for them. 5 companies worth of red drop ships. They tried to break through 4 times. On the 3rd time, the company on our left flank charged out and mowed down 2 of their retreating companies before being gunned down themselves. My boss, former boss, I guess, Captain Singh, had caught a bullet during the 2nd charge, and now it's just me and my boys between their last company and the civilians of Mechatol Rex." Ali's first sergeant remembered what happened next. "The lieutenant clicked on his radio and he calmly said, 'Reload and stay ready, boys, we're it. They've got us as many as we have, but We're elite troopers. We're not gonna let the Federation and our fallen comrades down, and we're not gonna let these people behind us down. Not while we draw breath. When they came, I could see them running up and down the line, firing and keeping the men fighting. And then the shooting stopped. We could see the Letnev fleet in orbit, but the shooting was over. Being who he is, the lieutenant kept us on alert until the Federation snuck in and Orbital dropped 2 more companies. Then more and more over the next few weeks until we had been reinforced by 8 fresh elite commando companies. But if I may be so bold, they were no Jordian guards. Before the activation alarm ever went off again, the politicians had earned the Clan Asar's support for the throne, and with Imperial authority in hand, the Twilight Wars drew to a close. Ali recounts when he heard the news. I was watching the Letnev fleet through the bombardment bunker's telescope as they passed over my makeshift field HQ. Sure, you could see the dreadnought with your naked eye, but I was looking for signs of troop pod activities or fresh carrier, gods forbid, indications they were forming up to receive the Letnev flagship. Then, the news came over the radio. The Galactic Council has bowed to the will of the Federation of Sol and recognizes its imperial right over the galaxy. Turns out the guys on Jord had repulsed a small Sardak Nor invasion around the same time we were fighting ours. Clan Asar knew they couldn't trust anyone but us and helped us end the war. He looked up with a smile and shrugged. I guess it pays to make friends.
I don't know if it's the script or if it's the way that you read it, but you made them the Terran from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I was sitting here just being like, Sweet Rover! That's a Zerglin, Lester. Smaller type of Zerg. Well, we always gotta listen to this, sir.
Yeah.
Do you like it too, sir?
Dang it, stop it. Why does that grab me by the ghoulies? Oh my gosh. This was amazing.
Need a light?
You get a semblance of the story in there, but that's not what's important. You got the real story. That was given to us. That was gifted to us by Kelvin. And Kelvin, thank you for your beautifully written catalog of the final siege on Mechatol Rex. That was an epic story of survival. This is an important note. This one was sent to us with an accompanying picture, and sometimes when we get really, really long stories, we kind of go, oh man, okay, or this one might take us a bit to try to figure out. It's really hard to do long stories in This Imperium Life. We get a little hesitant, but it came with one picture, and on that one picture was, in the center, Mechatol Rex with like 2 red cruisers, 3 red fighters, a red dreadnought, a red carrier, and a single blue ground force on Mechatol Rex. And we went, well, all right, we're doing this story.
Completely sold it, yeah.
It doesn't matter what it says.
We hadn't even read any of it yet, and it was just like, that image sells it. Yeah, and that even is just like another thing of like when you see a very irregular board state.
Right.
Or one that, like, because we knew blue was sold.
Yeah.
So like it was like, oh, that's so cheeky. Yeah, we know the story here. No, it's a great picture. I honestly, Kelvin, it goes to show that if you can just take any board state and just kind of write a story out of where the board is at that time, it's like really fun. Like honestly, and I remember way before we even started the podcast, there was a point where you tried to do exactly what Kelvin just nailed.
Right.
Like, of just like trying to take it and make it all into a story. And honestly, what Kelvin nails is you gotta have at least a character. There's gotta be somebody. You know, there has to be.
Yeah, where I think I failed, and where I think we've gotten a few other submissions that are in this same sort of narrative vein. But I think what is really hard to nail, that Kelvin does flawlessly, but what's really hard to nail is trying to translate like game components and trying to translate moments into narrative language. When it's like, well, I also still want to convey what happened in the game. I say, if you're submitting us a story, don't worry about it. Just make the story good.
Yeah.
Just make it. We'll figure out what the nugget is, and we'll know we'll get the story. But just if you tell it real good,
right,
it's worth it.
It reminded me, actually, the way it was written. One of the things I really like about it is it reminded me of when I don't read books like this anymore, but when I was younger, I would read, I would like a video game, and then there would be some sort of novelization of the video game.
Right.
And he does a really good job of doing that thing that good writers try and do with video games, where it's like, all right, well, this works in the game. How do I make this sound
Make
like
any sense.
Right. And how and like the idea of writing it from a perspective of like, well, actually that it has perspective at all. That's really what it is. If you're trying to write a good Twilight Imperium story, I feel like zooming in makes it a lot more interesting than trying to tell us the story of the entire board state.
Right.
Like literally Kelvin was just like, I'm just that guy. What do I know?
Well, and that's what's so great about the situation too, is like the story is I got one ground force left on Mechatol Rex after all this crazy stuff.
Right.
And Kelvin decided to go, well, who's that one? Right. Who is that one ground force? And we all do that, right? We've all like named our ships and said, this is this ship, and they do this. This is Betty, and Betty's really awesome. Like, actually taking that and running with it is what makes this story so good. So, Kelvin, just thank you so much. If it's no surprise to anyone, I just really like reading those kinds of stories. I get really into it.
It's fun. This whole story reminds me of. I don't know if anybody else has had this experience. It's kind of idiosyncratic, but like if I'm playing Risk, and I have that one last dude that wins a fight. I guess this happens in Twilight Imperium too, but like because you deal with less dudes, it's like different. In Risk, it's like you'll go through so many. An army will go from like 30 to like nothing. 1. Right. But if it does go from 30 to 1, and that last guy saves it for me, he always gets a name. Always.
Yep. Yeah.
That's Kevin. He's he's tough.
He's crazy. He's got crazy eyes.
Yeah, he's been through a lot. The players important to this story are Sol, Jolnar, Letnev, and myself as Mentak. Letnev and I were neighbors, and had worked out an alliance fairly early in the game. Our non-aggression led Letnev to leave certain parts of our border fairly lightly defended. On the other side of the galaxy, Sol had built a sizable fleet, but since he was all the way across the board, I didn't take this very seriously. Our confidence soon faded when we realized what his plan was. He had positioned his fleet on a wormhole. He could jump through the unoccupied wormhole nexus, emerging in Letnev space. His handful of action cards and the smug look on his face guaranteeing a flank speed that he would no doubt use to reach the lightly defended Letnev home system. My ally was shaken. Would his meager defenses be enough to withstand the attack? As Letnev, he could afford to build a fleet in his home system, but the timing was off. Sol could invade before he would get this chance. Secure in his imagined victory, Sol greedily anticipated plundering the riches of the Letnev, completely forgetting about me. The Mentak coalition may be pirates, but we certainly do not abandon an ally. My turn came up right before Sol's. Looking him directly in the eye with an innocent expression on my face, I played an action card for my turn, Ghost Ship, allowing me to place a single destroyer in an empty system containing a wormhole. A system like the wormhole nexus. Sol laughed as I demurely placed my lone destroyer onto the board, but his laughter came to an abrupt end when he saw what my action meant. My destroyer would force his fleet to stop in the nexus, delaying it for a round. This would give the Letnev the time they needed to reinforce their defenses. Sol stared aghast at my ship, realizing that he had been outwitted. Sol abandoned his plan altogether, turning his fleet in the other direction and picking a fight elsewhere in the galaxy, leaving the ghost ship standing vigil in the wormhole nexus. Now this was certainly an interesting play, but this is not the end of the ghost ship story. Jolnar had been doing what fishes do best, and gathering tech, eventually leading to Fishbowl War Sons making their way across the galaxy. By this stage of the game, Letnev had a very scary fleet and was hungry for filet-o-fish. So a Jolnar Letnev throwdown was fated to occur. The Letnev fleet smashed into the Jolnar in one of the largest space battles I have ever seen. Fighter screens were decimated. Damage was sustained. The blackness of space flared with the explosions of countless ships. After a torrent of dice, the Letnev fleet was completely wiped out. The Jolnar had won, but just barely. The single damaged War Sun loaded with ground forces was all that was left of the proud aquatic fleet. The outlook for Letnev seemed grim. Next turn, the War Sun would repair and make its way into the sparsely defended Letnev home system. Letnev had expended almost everything to try and stop the fish. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the word of Letnev's demise. My turn. A table full of confused eyes regarded me as I calmly laid a Mentak token onto the system containing Jolnar's damaged war sun. The players looked at the table, then back at me in confusion. None of my main fleets could reach the system. Was I mistaken? Had I chosen the wrong system? My intentions became clear as I moved my ghost ship destroyer into the war sun's tile. The wormholes gave me just enough movement to reach it. The table laughed at my gambit. Surely a destroyer was no match for a war sun, even a wounded one. Jolnar smiled and reached for his dice, ready to blast my single ship out of space. Hold on, I said. This is a Mentak destroyer, remember? Jolnar's smug facade cracked just a bit, remembering my pre-combat shot. His confidence soon returned, however. Surely, even with the element of surprise on my side, the paltry attack value of my destroyer would not be enough to make a difference. The table held their breath as I rolled my shot. The dice rolled across the table in slow motion, finally coming to rest. The rest of the table gasped when they saw the result. A hit. The ghost ship had done what the entire Letnev fleet could not. Those ragtag pirates had finished off the war sun. I didn't wind up winning that game, but it didn't matter. The ghost ship was victorious. On that day, the ghost ship became an eternal part of my group's meta. Whenever the ghost ship makes an appearance, no matter the race, in my heart, I know it's that same crazy, renegade crew of space pirates returning to make the biggest spectacle they can. Fly on, ghost ship. Fly on.
Speaking of attaching stories to like one particular unit,
Right,
man,
right.
I love it when like an entire situation has a storyline that crosses across. I mean, that's the same thing with our Connie storyline. Every time that action card comes up now, what is that? What is that? What is that action card? I forget.
Confusing legal text.
That's right. Every time confusing legal text comes up now, the joke just hits again. Right. And same thing with this. Yeah. Now you have this eternal ghost ship storyline of any time. You know, for us, ghost ship gets played. Yeah, I put a ship there. But now they have they're back, boys. They're here to stake their claim on whatever lies in their wake.
Right. I like this story so much, and this like whole idea of kind of having this like weird respect for the ghost ship so much, where I kind of want it to be a thing. Like even though this did not happen to me,
right. Now I have this respect for the ghost ship.
Like next time I play ghost ship,
it's the same space pirates.
Yeah,
it's your space pirates.
Right. I'm sorry we didn't point this out before we started reading it, but obviously this was a TI3 story.
Yes, yeah.
And also this was from Terry.
This is from Terry. Thanks, Terry. TI3 story, but still holds true that I think the ghost ship now gets a tag in my mental imagery.
The ghost ship is a special ship, and every time you throw it out now, just think about what even that means. Yeah. What does that even mean? Right, but from like a roleplay perspective, it's like, what, we just found a ship. Like, yeah, it was always mysterious, and Terry found that.
I like to I don't remember if the card Ghost Ship came out before the Ghosts of Creus did, but I like to think that there is a link there. That the destroyer is a ghost ship that was like the first Ghosts of Creus to come through, but no one was left on the ship, and so you found the ship, and there it is, and you hop on it.
Right.
And then 4 years later, the Ghosts of Creus came through the same wormhole, and whatever. I don't know.
I like that. I like that. And we got to keep working on our Twilight Imperium, our screenplay that we're going to pitch to well, I guess
Warner
Disney.
Brothers.
It's probably just going to to be Disney now, because it looks like they're buying up everything. Everything is the mouses.
Look out, Asmodee.
Everything the light touches.
The mouses.
This joke is actually going to like aged horribly if Disney does not actually succeed in buying Fox.
Well, they still bought everything else, so they still own everything.
That's true.
It's
true.
It's fine.
We're fine. Oh man, a Disney. Imagine if they did Twilight Imperium but cast with Disney like characters. Like who would Mickey Mouse play? I'm saying like casting couch, Twilight Imperium.
Kingdom Hearts 4, Twilight Imperium.
No, that's a whole nother level.
There's a Twilight Imperium planet.
So Donald Duck, where are we putting him?
Donald Duck is obviously the Sardak Nor.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Because of the way he talks.
And they're all Donald Duck, too. It's just a bunch of Donald Ducks. All right. Goofy. Where are we putting them?
Goofy. Who's the goofiest? I mean, Sardak. I mean, the Clan of Sar.
Yeah.
Clan of Sar is a goofy race.
Yeah.
Right?
Arf. The Clan of... That's pretty good. Then where's old Mickey going?
Well, Mickey...
is the Keyblade Master. He's still a Keyblade Master.
And he does backflips.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man.
He shares that in common with Yoda, that he can do lots of crazy backflips.
He is very Yoda. So he's very prequel Yoda.
Exactly.
Man, this one's been full of a little too
much
culture, you know? A little too much reference humor, which is not my type of humor.
Well, let's move on then. This has been This Imperium Life. These were some amazing. These were our favorites. There were plenty more. If you want to get your stories on the next This Imperium Life, start submitting them now. Please email them to us at spacecatspieceturtles@gmail.com. That is the best place. That's the easiest place for us to flag them and keep track of them and organize them and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And yeah, send us your best stories. Feel free to editorialize. Feel free to lie about actual outcomes.
Yeah, just
get us a good story. I don't care. I just want the best moments. And these were what we've been getting for about the past 6 months, and I really love them.
Yeah, I consider the stories that we've gathered for this episode to be like the kind of Rosetta Stone for This Imperium Life. Like, these stories all have struck a specific chord and flavor. That one about the one from Braden, the blue thing, that's like a whole new chord.
It's a whole new chord I didn't know I had.
How about we get more of those? More stuff where...
Here's what you need to do. I'm not advocating heavy drinking, but if you're playing a game...
I am advocating DMT.
No, what I'm saying is if you happen to play a game where lots of alcohol was consumed, do not wait until tomorrow to recount to us your story about that game.
Right.
Please sit down right away and type up your story and send it to us.
Send us your
drunk text of TIL submission.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Well, do you want to do some errata? There's not. I don't know if I can even call this errata. Last week's episode doesn't warrant really any errata, but we did get a question.
Well, and we're supposed to jump over to it. Okay,
we're supposed to jump over. I'm sorry. I need to let Hunter host.
There hasn't been enough of the music cues
in this episode, right? Yeah.
So here we go.
One more music cue in case you forgot.
I got one coming. I got one. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna be like. Welcome to Space Cats Peace Turtles Errata. I am Hunter Donaldson. This is the podcast within a podcast where we talk about the stuff that we messed up last episode when we were just trying to have a conversation with just the two of us.
We were just trying to have fun, and turns out we can't even do that.
First errata's from my dad. He says I'm a failure.
No, the first one is from FF Days, and they ask this. After analyzing all the factions in depth, would you change the 6 recommended starting factions, the Extra Kingdom, the Federation of Sol, the Emirates of Hakan, the Barony of Letnev, the Sardak Nor, and the Universities of Jolnar? Both the Barony and the Sardak jump out as ones that are not so noob-friendly. So, Hunter, do you agree, I guess, with that first assessment of those two being no good? I think we both agree Sardak Nor. We have talked about this. Sardak Nor is a bad first race to play.
Yeah, Sardak Nor is confusing because it's straightforward, which I like for new players, but it is difficult, and the likelihood that you're going to win is low.
Or even do very well at all.
Yeah.
You're just gonna flounder, and if it's like your first time just trying the game in general, you may not like Twilight Imperium after playing
Twilight
Imperium. That's what we were just talking about.
Right.
No, I think if you play Sardak in your first game, you might dislike the game because you're gonna have so many things you're trying to fight against that you aren't prepared for.
Yeah.
So Sardak is definitely out. Who else do you want to kick out?
I don't think necessarily that Barony isn't noob friendly. Yeah. I feel like Barony, there's a layer of complexity, I feel like, once you learn the game.
Right.
But they have an element of, this is pretty obvious what they do. Yeah. They have fleets, and they get a lot of them. And fleet pool in particular, as a mechanic, is I think something that newer players struggle with a little bit.
Right.
But it at least calls attention to that whole fleet pool thing, so that maybe you learn that sooner. I just feel like once I started thinking about all of the factions, I actually didn't feel like Barony was that bad. I get how in the list that they have, Barony maybe like
is an iffy.
sticks
Is on ice.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that because the others are like, well, that's easier. Except for I do disagree with. I actually don't think that Emirates Hakan is a good
first race
for new players, and here's why. Actually, let's just debate this.
Yep. Because I disagree a little bit.
It's
only a little bit.
There's a meta aspect to it.
Yeah.
So already we need to understand the economy of everything in order to make good deals. The likelihood that if the Hakan player is inexperienced, it will give every other player, not even just the Hakan player, a messed up idea of what the game is and how it plays and how trade works is super high, in my opinion.
It's true. I kind of like Hakan staying in because it incentivizes exploring trade goods and seeing like the dynamic power of trade.
Yeah.
And also like I'm not opposed this is sort of the like teach through experience moment of the first time you see Hakan have 13 trade goods round 1 on their faction sheet, you learn that you need to think about trade differently. And so for me, I kind of like that as a teaching moment of like that's going to happen at least once, and then all the players are going to go, huh, we can't let that happen ever again. And then like you already start to develop metas. I agree that it's like that's playing with fire a little bit, and it might distract new players. But I think when we were both trying to think through, like, what would the perfect 6 factions be, there's no great answer, because at the end of the day, TI is always insanely complex.
Right. It's always going to be hard.
Yeah. It makes me even think about, like, what if you played a game, what if your practice game was without any faction abilities? Everyone was just playing, like, if you did a 3-round practice game and just nobody played as a faction. Or we come up with a generic, just like you have 3 commodities.
Oh, like a training faction.
Like a training
where
faction.
It's like we make up a little ability for them.
Right, but it
like
is
really
not
simple.
it is not very variable. It's just like you're going to at least have access to everything, and everyone will be on equal footing.
The thing is, though, like when it comes to learning Twilight Imperium, it's really hard to pitch a new person. Like one of the things that's difficult about it, I feel like, is, well, okay, you're going to want to learn how to play this game that you don't even know if you like it yet, and you're going to need to invest some time in it. That's the hard part. Like anytime I tell someone to look at the RTFM video, it's like, even though it's at 32 minutes, to us, that's like, wow, they teach it in 32 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
To anybody that doesn't already love the game, they're like, wait, I have to watch a half hour, I have to watch like a sitcom length video. Like I could watch 30 Rock. Right. This is competing with every episode of 30 Rock, every episode of The Office, you know, and now I'm going to watch this instead. And also...
And then play a board game.
Right. And then play a board game.
And then maybe be equipped to play a board game,
But see, that's why I feel like having Hakan in that first time, like, it... Because I think you have to just kind of jump in and get your feet wet and your hands dirty. And I feel like a Twilight Imperium game with Hakan in it is different from every other game. So why start it on the different foot? Why not get everything kind of figured out? And then introduce Hakan as like and then you can play with Hakan or Mentak or these races, these factions that like affect each other a little more. Or like Necro would be a horrible example. Because then it would be like anything that is like a exception to the rule, you don't really want to throw that at people.
So we also, I think from there on out, we kind of both agree on what we think are good starting factions. I think Extra stays in. Extra's fine. You learn defensive capabilities. You get to play around with PDS a little bit. They're pretty straightforward at what they're good at. I don't know that you're
actually good at that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you sit a new player down and you're like, Extra, okay, you need to take the construction strategy card and build PDS. If they do that, if they actually succeed in taking the construction card, they're probably going to do decent.
They're going to do okay,
They're not going to do bad.
Right. We also both like keeping Soul in. I think we were both afraid of Soul, but we couldn't find any better. There's no better option. And so it's like, you're going to have a solid game. You're not going to, like, all of the economies of the game are there for you. You'll do fine. You'll be totally fine as Soul.
You have a little more wiggle room when it comes to command counters, which is something that people struggle with in general. And then also, like, I feel like a lot of times when I see newer players play Soul, they don't understand that orbital drop is good.
Right.
But even if they don't...
It's the same thing with the extra flagship. I was going to say, you might have trouble having success if you don't get that extra flagship. But if everyone's on that equal footing, you don't need that leg up as badly. And you'll get there. You'll learn it.
And if somebody was playing Soul and they were like, oh, I don't really care about orbital drop, it's not like they would be... Like, Soul has plenty of other advantages to like keep them afloat.
Definitely. I think we both like Jolnar.
Yeah.
Hunter, I remember you didn't love it just because, and I've seen other people say this as well, and I, to a certain extent, agree with it, of Jolnar has access to basically all tech, and tech can be pretty overwhelming for new players.
Right.
It's like basically this booklet of things you need to read and somehow understand very quickly.
Right.
My argument for Jolnar is, sure, yes, you have to like look through all this tech, but because you're able to just get so much tech, it's not a big deal if you get like a dumb tech along the way.
Or a tech that you thought was cool but isn't.
Doesn't work out.
Like
At
you
least
read
you're going-
Magen and you're like,
Right.
oh, this sounds really cool.
Right, at least you're going to play around with a bunch of them. You're going to experience more of the game than lots of other factions.
I came around to this after we talked about this before we started recording the episode, and then we started like looking through all of the factions.
Right.
And I at first disagreed, but then once we started looking at the alternatives, I was like, no, don't, because it has the same thing as Soul, where it's like, even if they make mistakes, they'll probably do all right.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It'll be fine.
One of the ones we want to insert into the mix is Isarl, kind of for the same sort of logic of like, Isarl's not getting anything bad, and at the very least, you're going to have more action cards, so you're going to see more little plays that you can pull off, and you're going to do pretty well. Like,
right.
I think Isarl is a very solid faction. It's one I would like to insert into the top 6 or the early 6, whatever you want to call it.
You'll also, so like, I hear some of you might be sitting there right now and being like, oh, but they're going to be overwhelmed with like action cards and stuff. The thing about activation timings when it comes to cards is like, even if they mess it up, the table will be like, oh no, that's not
right.
They're going to learn
it together.
They're going to learn a lot playing Isarl.
Yes.
And also, it's the same thing as with Jolnar and Soul, where if Isarl accidentally gives away that they have an action card because they tried to play something when they couldn't, that's not going to be like the biggest issue.
Right.
Like they will probably recover from that because they're just going to keep on getting action cards.
Yeah. And the last one that I think we both like, and if only because they're just simple and straightforward, and
I think it's the worst one. Though.
I think it's the worst pick,
but
we both want to throw L1Z1X in there. I like L1Z1X in there because I think between Barony and L1, I would rather have L1.
Me too. I agree with that.
But I essentially think of L1 as Hunter's replacement for Hakan, which is just to say get something less meta smashy in there.
Right.
And L1Z1X is the same situation of like, they are good. All of their abilities are good. It makes sense what to do with them. Get Dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts are going to help you do lots of things. You're not going to have a horrible game as the L1Z1X in your first game. I
also just feel like it's a faction that has that perfect level of like, what are they about? Big ships. Oh, cool. Is that it? Yeah, pretty much. Like if you get that, then you pretty much get the faction. They obviously there's more to it than that. Okay, but I just mean when you're explaining a new player. And then L1 like does well enough. You're not as safeguarded as these other ones.
Yes.
But you know, when you start looking at everybody else, I couldn't think of a better candidate that like had abilities that were easy to explain, a whole like kind of curve to it that is easy to grasp.
Yeah, when we started looking at the other options, I mean, it's like Arborek, no. I was a little bit okay with Clan Asar. The old mentality of Clan Asar is like, oh man, trying to figure out all that production is going to be maddening.
But it's not hard anymore.
And if anything, you're opened up to like really learn. I think you're going to learn how to produce units very fast as them.
Right.
But Hunter brought up a good point of, yes, but your game might get thrown out of whack so fast. Like, they don't have the stability that a lot of other factions are going to have.
There's a lot of pressure on SAR early game to, like, to do stuff, and I feel like I would see newer players make mistakes with SAR early game that end up costing them the whole thing, and then they don't have fun.
I want to see this one in action, because I think it could be fine, but yeah, there's definitely some room for, like, whoops, you threw everything you had at one fleet because you didn't realize like the odds of success there, and your game is literally completely shot.
Right.
Necrovirus, no. Arborek, no. Muat, no way. Winnu, absolutely not. Unless it's a 4-player game. I don't know.
Sure,
maybe
I guess,
it's fine then. But we're talking 6 players.
Right.
Ghosts of Creus. People always gravitate towards Ghosts of Creus. Ghosts of Creus are cool, just like in theme and what their abilities are.
And it's also, you kind of grasp it. Yeah, nebulas.
You learn wormholes.
Oh yeah.
But when you learn what a wormhole is and you see what the Ghost of Koreas do with wormholes, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
They're like Sardak for me,
but
though.
It's a Sardak problem.
Yeah.
But what do you do with that? And,
right.
And new players are not going to be
and
able to...
And is it a difficult situation you're pushing them into?
Someone on the Reddit suggested Mentak, and I am afraid of Mentak for the same reasons Hunter is afraid of Hakan.
Yeah.
I think Mentak destroys the meta in such a crazy way that for new players, it will not make for a very enjoyable experience, and it will be very confusing, and it also just like... I don't think the Mentak player stands a chance because it's going to just be too weird of a relationship they're having with everybody else at the board, and I don't know. I think it throws too many things out of whack.
You don't want, when you're trying to teach people the game, you don't want it to be a super meta game because if you have, especially if you have a mixture of experienced and inexperienced players, that's where I feel like I see the most like people taking advantage of each other a little bit in games. Which is, I think, why the rule book is like no promissory notes,
right?
Like, because you're
not gonna get it yet.
You need to understand all the other economies to understand is this a good trade or not,
right?
And if you can't understand if it's a good trade or not, and an experienced player is trying to trade with you, then that's like almost game breaking, really.
Yeah. The Yin Brotherhood, I think would be an okay.
I think it's close.
It's close, but the problem with Yin Brotherhood is what we outlined in the Yin Brotherhood episode, which is like at first glance. If you just try to do their abilities, every other faction, it's like, I'm going to try to do my abilities as like kind of often as I can because it's going to benefit me a lot. If you try to do devotion all the time...
Yeah, like it might lead somebody to actually use that ability a lot.
And that's the bad thing.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, cool, I'm the terrorist.
And so I for that reason, I don't think that you're going to have a great time as Yin. But they're close. They're like right up there with sort of the Hakan Barony L1 situation. The Nalu Collective, I always want to put them up there, but I do think it is very confusing to grasp initiative order when the Nalu is in the game.
And that's so important
to Also, forcing a new player to always go first can really hinder your ability to make good decisions. It can be a lot of pressure to always have to go first and not necessarily know like what you're going to be up against.
Nalu is, I think, one of the more mysterious races too for new players as to like, I don't understand why is this good? Like they can retreat and they go for like, it's just, it's not as easy to grasp.
Right. You're not getting any obvious like,
they're
this
slippery.
Is why they're good. Right. Yeah. So yeah, for me, my top 6 for a first game are Hakan, Xcha, L1Z1X, Isarl, Sol, and Jolnar.
Mm-hmm. And mine is essentially the same thing, except I swap out Barony for Hakan. Yeah. I think having 2 factions that are like, they build fleets, the fleets are pretty good, that's okay.
Yeah.
I also just kind of like that array of
it's a good makeup. 2 pretty fleet heavy ones, 2 pretty defensive ones, and then these 2 sort of game changers, Isarl and Jolnar, are sort of in there to throw things off the mix.
That's all the errata we're gonna do.
That's all the errata. But that was a really big one we wanted to pick apart.
Yeah, that was just like a fun little like extra topic, basically. Yeah. Thank you.
Like a mini episode.
FF Days.
So let's do the rundown. If this is where you normally skip, please don't this time. Hey, why don't you listen to the rundown?
We have a lot of fun in the rundown.
Because we have some stupid fun in the rundown.
Fun in the bun down.
If you go to the Twitter, you can find us at SpaceCatsPod. We post live game pictures and stuff. There's also, when we release new episodes, it's on Twitter. I'm trying to step up our Twitter game. We're pretty bad at Twitter, and I want to get better, especially when we're at Gen Con. We're going to tweet a lot. We're going to tweet a lot at Gen Con. Facebook, you can go there for, you can submit questions to us on Facebook. If you just need, if anything, when you ask something on Facebook, it's going to ping me on my phone, and I often will get rules questions on Facebook. Like someone's in a game right now. It's like, hey, real quick, I just need someone to rule on this for me.
Yeah.
And I've done that plenty of times. So head over to Space Cats Peace Turtles on Facebook for that. Also on Reddit/r/Twilight Imperium. That's where we post every week's episode, and you can engage in discussions about the episodes and about strategy and everything like that. It's a really fun place, and we love how supportive they have always been of our show. We've also got a Board Game Geek Guild. You can go there for discussion. We also have a calendar that we're going to start updating, and hopefully it's going to be fairly consistent going forward. I always say that. It's never true. It's fine. Like we said earlier, email us, spacecatspieceturtles@gmail.com. That's the best place to submit all the types of stories you just heard in this episode. This Imperium Life, also Plays of the Week. Send those to us there. It's the easiest place for us to organize them. It's also just kind of the best venue to get big, long chunks of text. So you can also do anything else on the email. Send us more questions, throw ideas at us. If you want to do errata through email, that's fine. I don't care. I'll read it. I just might lose it.
Please
label
put it in
it.
the subject file.
Yeah. Be important. It's very important to have a good subject header because otherwise it's impossible for me to remember where I ended up putting a post. We also have a Patreon. On our Patreon, you can contribute to us. It helps us make this podcast better. We are a month away from Gen Con.
It's insane.
I am freaking out. I am so excited. I can't wait to meet all of you that are going to be there. I can't wait to see the people competing in the Gen Con tournament.
We're going to party.
Hey,
hard. We're going to party. Space Cats party turtles.
Get ready for some late nights so that we can then wake up at like 6 a.m. to go to these ridiculous
party.
Blarknob really screwed us all over with these 8 a.m. prelims.
Yeah, how dare he?
How dare he?
I don't get up at 8 a.m.
ever.
Ever. Like, I never have to
I do
that.
Constantly. Also, join our Discord for Hunter...
Discard.
Our Discord.
Join our Discord. You've made that mistake before.
Every
You've
time.
said it like that.
That's where we have all kinds of crazy conversations. It's also one of the best spots to get your Patreon benefits. We've got forums on there where the Goodyin Brotherhood and... what else? What's the other main one? What are they called? I don't remember what we've named things.
What are they called?
What are they called, though?
The Goodyin Brotherhood and then...
The Galactic Council.
The Galactic Council.
Yeah, that's where they hang out and discuss upcoming episodes and whatnot. Also, please give us a rating on whatever podcast app you're using, especially iTunes. Lots of things happen through the iTunes review system. And so if you're on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, we get more visibility, the game gets more visibility, and we all find more people to play Twilight Imperium with because of it.
Ecosystem.
It's all connected.
It feeds each other.
Hunter, what's happening tonight?
Tonight, if you're listening to this right now, I need you to turn this off right now.
Not yet, because you need to get the details that you're about to get from you. In like 30 seconds, turn this off.
Yeah, just turn this off. So if you live in Portland, tonight I will be competing in the Helium Comedy Club Portland's Funniest Person contest. My show starts at 10 o'clock p.m., which I will warn you, I mean, it's going to be a late night if you come out to support me, but I would love your support. If you call the venue ahead of time and tell them that I told you to call, they will give you tickets half off for $5. If you just end up deciding to show up at the door, it will be $10. It's pretty big deal, this Portland's Funniest contest. I have competed it in the past and done quite well. I'm excited about my chances this year, especially if I can make it through this prelims round.
Do you want to explain like why it's so important for people to come to this show?
Well, so this one, the preliminary round of the contest is an audience vote thing. After that, you go through a process of performing for an audience, but you're judged based on people that like work for, there's this Portland record label called Kill Rock Stars and this radio station called X-Ray FM, and they send people to judge. But this first round is audience vote.
Basically just a popularity contest.
It is a popularity contest, and let me go ahead and pre-tell you, some people kind of just pack it out, and like it gets a little bit squeamish. I will say I do not pack it out. But you can
help us pack it out.
Yeah, you could help us rig this. No,
that's not us. Why did I say us?
Because you're invested in it, and the better I do, the better we do.
I guess so.
If I make it to the semis
My
and then I make it to the finals, yeah, it is.
Oh,
it is.
God.
Well, I mean, if I ever get in like a paper
bedroom,
if I ever get in a paper, then I'll be like Space Cats, Peace Turtles, and that'll be in print. You know what I'm saying?
We'll be
Which
in
will
print.
help us.
We'll be in a newspaper.
Why would
the rocketing world of newspaper?
Why would it help us to be in a Portland newspaper? A bunch of Portlanders opening up like, what's Twilight Imperium? Well, actually, you know what? They're at least saying what? Yeah.
I love it.
Let's take out a newspaper ad for this podcast.
Hey, I want to thank some Patreoners. I want to thank our Patreonos. Space Pope Effin' Dragon. I want to thank the Commander, and I guess I have to thank Jada Pake.
Boo.
And obviously...
Mata Pake.
Obviously, we're not doing a play of the week this week because that's what the entire episode is. But we did want to say at the very end here, since we're getting so close to the Gen Con tournament, we wanted to start talking about our Patreon again in terms of what that's going to look like going forward. We've constantly advertised the Patreon of like, it's for the Gen Con tournament, and like the whole point of us doing it is really to focus on that one thing. But obviously we want to continue to use your support after the fact. And to do that, we sort of need to clean it up a little bit. Basically, we set some goals when we initially started it, but we had no idea what kind of reaction we would get, and we haven't necessarily held true to those goals, and some of the goals are not even things people even want.
Right, they're just not consistent with where the show is,
right,
basically.
So we would love your input on, if you are a contributing member of our Patreon, what sort of goals do you want to see us work towards? What things would you like to see happen in the show? And if you are not already contributing, but need something that could convince you to contribute, what would that look like? What would incentivize you to want to support the show? What helps you join the bandwagon?
Right.
So please just give us that advice. We want to know. We've always tried to do this with your guys' help, with everyone's support and advice. And we just want to make the show what you want to listen to and what you want to see. So, start giving us advice. We want to know what it is you're looking to get out of your listening experience.
Yeah. What are you looking for? We'll talk about whatever you want.
We'll stop talking about Twilight Imperium if that's what you want.
That would be so crazy if everybody was like,
We're really into Breaking Bad now, and we just would love a retrospective look at Breaking Bad and how it compares to Better Call Saul.
Hey, I could do it. I could do it easily. Oh my God, I love Better Call Saul.
I'm gonna fade out right now.
No,
I can't go down this tangent with you. Here at minute, I don't know, what is that, 100 minutes?
Better Call Paul Tolls.
What was that?
It could be called Better Call Paul Tolls.
That's turtles, but Paul.
Paul Tolls.
Peas, turtles, Paul Tolls.
Paul Tolls.
All right.
Breaking Cat.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles. And thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.